and welcome back to Blind Literature. Today we are discussing The Catcher in the Rye. Here with me I have a graduate student from Harvard University who is going to help us discuss the topics of The Catcher in the Rye. Her name is Ruth Putnam. Now help me in welcoming Ruth to the stage. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger is a book about a school student named Holden Caulfield. Holden has been kicked out of his fourth school yet, and he is just really struggling. He heads to New York City for a weekend before he's going home to his parents, and there we see a lot of things unravel. Now, Ruth is going to help us talk about those things. Ruth?
Thanks for having me, Joanne. As we see, Holden getting kicked out in the beginning of the novel, it's really hard for him to deal with it. He goes to New York, and you really see him find other people around him who just don't care about him. He really struggles with growing up from childhood to adulthood and finding his own identity. However, through his rebellious behavior, we see a sense of hope in his very everyman character.
You know, I think you're correct, Ruth. And this book is very complex in the end, and so to help us break it down even further, Ruth and I have created some activities involving the characters in the novel, the themes, the symbols, and some plot relation to help us really figure out what in the hell is going on. This is a segment we like to call character identification. Simply, I'm going to hold up a sign of the character we have selected, and our very favorite expert here, Ruth, is going to give us her interpretation. Let's begin, shall we, Ruth? Holden.
Well, Holden is the protagonist and narrator of the novel. He's very intelligent and sensitive and cynical and has a very jaded voice. However, his criticisms that he aims at people are also aimed at himself. It's really hard to understand and get through the novel without hating him towards the end. At times, he displays as much phoniness, meanness, and superficiality as anyone else in the novel.
Very good, Ruth, very good. Let's move on to the next. Phoebe.
Phoebe is his 10-year-old sister, Holden. He loves her dearly and listens to what she says and understands him more than most people do. Her childish innocence is one of Holden's only consistent sources of happiness throughout the novel.
I think you're right in that, Ruth, and we see a lot in Phoebe when it comes to Holden. She's really a pivotal character. Moving on to the next. Stradlater and Ackley.
Ackley is Holden's next-door neighbor. He's pimply, insecure, and has terrible dental hygiene, according to Holden. He's completely oblivious to Holden's hints that he should leave, and I think Holden looks for a friend in Ackley, though.
Fair enough, yes.
Stradlater, Holden's roommate. He's very handsome and self-satisfied and popular, and Holden shows a dislike for him, and they end up getting in a fight.
Yes, and I think Holden has a little jealousy for Stradlater getting the time, you know what I'm saying? Okay, alright, let's move on. How about Jane and Sally, the ladies of the novel?
Jane, what a character. She spent one summer with Holden, and I think he was really fond of her. He showed a genuine care for her and is extremely important to him. She is one of the few girls he respects and finds attractive. Sally, on the other hand, I think he finds companionship in her and looks to escape with her. Doesn't find a stable relationship. They don't seem to be a good match.
Agreeable. Moving on. We have Carl Luce.
He shows how Holden can't really grow up. He asks him when he's ever going to grow up and emphasizes this struggle in Holden and doesn't seem very fond of Holden at all and shows how Holden is hard to relate with other people around him.
You know, you're right, and I think when we see Luce and Holden interacting in that bar, Holden really says to himself, well, maybe I need to grow up. Maybe this is the time. And Luce helps him see that. So that's good. Finishing things off, we of course have a controversial character, Mr. Antolini. Now, what do you think about this one, Ruth?
It's hard. It's really hard to come to a census on what we could say about him, but he could be as a creep, or he could be a compassionate father figure. It's could go either way. The book, Salinger really emphasizes you really can't pick. You can't pick, and I think that Holden does receive good advice from him, but he does scare Holden away.
I mean, if I woke up to someone patting my head and it was a middle-aged man, I might be a little scared too, especially because I couldn't see him, you know what I'm saying? All right, that's it for characters. Moving on. So, now that we see the characters of the novel, where they kind of stand, how they play a part in Holden's life, we'd like to discuss a couple of the themes that we see in the novel. First off, we'd like to talk about the theme of growing up. It seems like it's something hard to do for Holden, and it's kind of reoccurring as we go throughout the novel. So, Ruth, what can you add on that?
Well, Joanne, he really does show that growing up is hard to do. He has to decide between being a child and an adult, and I just don't think he can decide sometimes. He keeps the rebellious behaviors going, but, at the end he does show like a sense of adulthood when he's watching Phoebe on the carousel.
Yeah, very, very true, Ruth. Moving on, our next theme to talk about is the value of truth versus the value of a lie. We see Holden lying often throughout the novel. And does he really value truth? And, where does that get him in the end?
Well, he does say in the beginning that he is good at lying, but throughout the entire thing he calls others phonies. Now, I believe that shows him being the biggest phony of all, really criticizing everything for what they do and never appreciating what other people are doing around them. And at the end, I think that he realizes that he needs to accept everyone around him.
I think you're right on that one. Let's move on to a few symbols from the novel. Starting out, I'd like to ask you, Ruth, about what you think Holden's red hunting hat really means.
That is a good symbol. I think it really shows him trying to find his identity with not being able to fit in. He can wear that, and I think he has his own different appearance and be different from everyone else.
I agree with you there. I really do. Especially, finding himself, being different, sticking out a little bit. Okay. Moving on, how about the museum? We hear him talk about it a few times, and he visits it multiple times throughout the novel, and I think there's something there that really sticks with him. Could you expand on that?
I think that he appreciates, and he says it, that everything stays behind the glass and doesn't move, and he really holds on to that because everything around him is changing with the different schools and not being able to fit in and not liking the people around him. So just the essence of how it doesn't move and how it always is the same at different times.
Almost like a sense of stability for him.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, exactly, okay. And last but not least, the carousel at the end of the novel. We see him and his sister Phoebe head to the carousel, and I think this is just really a climactic, pivotal part of the novel. What do you think, Ruth?
He really has shown growing up watching Phoebe on the carousel rather than himself, seeing as the carousel could be seen as sort of a childish thing to do, and watching her do it makes him seem as more of an adult.
Ah, okay.
Towards the end.
Okay. That's good points. So, as of right now, we hope that these discussions on the characters, the plots, the themes, and the symbols of the novel have helped you to kind of understand more about what Salinger was really trying to do with the Catcher in the Rye novel. Now, exclusive here on Blind Literature, we'd like to bring to you a snippet of the upcoming first ever Catcher in the Rye movie. Now, I know you are all as excited as I am. I just can't even talk. I'm so excited. And Ruth, she's...
Calm down, Joanne. Calm down.
I know. Okay. Why don't we just cut to the scene? Kicked out of school and headed to New York City, Holden Caulfield looks to find his way. The struggles of growing up and dealing with the world around him, have enclosed Holden. Coming this fall, will Holden find his way out? Figure it out for yourself. Coming soon to theaters near you. The Catcher in the Rye.
Joanne?
Oh, sorry. Wow, doesn't that trailer just look amazing? I cannot wait to see the rest of it. Once again, on behalf of Blind Literature, I'd like to thank my good friend Ruth Putnam for being here today. Another round of applause for Ruth.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joanne.
Yes, yeah, okay. And, moving forward, we cannot wait. Please join us for the next episode of Blind Literature.